Tiger fans, get ready for episode 257 of the official Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club podcast, bringing you all the latest news, updates, and buzz surrounding your mighty JSU Tigers. I am the Corey C. Make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast to be notified of all future episodes. Apple Podcasts and Spotify video users, rate and review the show. And everyone, go follow Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club on Facebook and Tiger Talk 1400 on Instagram and Twitter. It all helps the cause, which is the I love Jackson State University. And you already know what it is. Back in the booth, we got the whole crew, got the squad with us today. Starting with Ken Clark. What up, baby?
What's up, Big Corey C? We got the whole team in the building. What up, Zoe? What up, the Big Aristotle? What's up, baby?
What's up, King? What's up, Zoe? What's up, Corey C?
What up, man? We got a first shout out to our boy Shaq, the Big Aristotle, finally showing his face, making his video debut. You've all heard the voice. I get messages every day. Who is Shaq? Who is the Big Aristotle? You know, he's not on social media.
I'll be on social media very soon.
No, he's on social media, but he's incognito. I know which accounts you're coming from. I know when you see like in the post.
Call those lookers.
But listen, when you get the commissioner, of the 1400 Club, Mr. Greg himself, saying, "Who is Shaq?" I have to explain who. Okay, I know him. I know of him. So, well, welcome. Definitely excited to have you guys on. But listen, it's the honor for me to be on with you three, because I usually let y'all run with it, and y'all always say, "Corey, come on with us." I say, "No, man, y'all just let it roll, man." I like to sit back and listen to y'all, get the knowledge. I like to be a fan. I don't want to be a host, a producer, or participant. I like to sit back and just listen. I remember the first time we came together. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was me, Zoe, and Ken about to do a show. And at the last minute, I said, "Let me bring my boy Shaq on." They're like, "Who is Shaq?" I was like, "It's my boy." Yeah. Called him up, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" Literally, I know he had podcast equipment, mics, and everything. He was ready. I was like, "Well, no, we just audio, no video." He was like, "Okay." Comes on, man. He had a splashing debut. I saw that chemistry between you three, so I just put you to a test. I said, "Okay, let's you three do a show." And man, we've been off to the races since then, man. Some of our best shows have come from you three just going into the booth and just giving us that context. So that content. So kudos to you guys, you three. I want to definitely shout you out.
It's been a blessing, man, and I appreciate that, man. The first time we came together, it was like clockwork. It was like chemistry, man. It was like magic. And I've never met I've never met Ken and Zoe in person, but it felt like we've known each other for like 20, 30 years, man, already.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Well, it's like we said, it's almost that time. Football season is around the corner. Every time we start really focusing on football, getting excited about the kickoff to the season, we have news just comes out of left field that just catches us off guard. And we're like, what? Coach Prime does it again. We should not be surprised by this anymore. Why are we even surprised? I mean, think about last season, that team we had coming into the fall after the spring. We knew we had a squad. Okay, this squad is set. Let's go. We can go undefeated. And then out of nowhere, you get a name just coming in like a Quay Davis added to the team that you already knew could dominate. I was like, man, the number 8 receiver in the country just falls into our lap. And then a Kitron Evans out of nowhere. Like, man, we got a 4-star defensive lineman added to this team. And then June, July, August, here comes the James Houston, who's now in the NFL, that gets added to the team at the last minute. And then right before kickoff, a Malachi Wideman finds his way on the team. And what does he do? Go on to lead the team in touchdown receptions in a handful of games. And again, that's added to a team that we knew could be dominant. So this season, same thing. We're getting new players announced, but more importantly, I don't want to say more importantly, but more specifically, we're getting new coaches added to the mix. And Zoe said it, man, we have a full staff, but look at all the GAs and analysts and all these other positions or titles that these coaches are coming in with, man, just adding to the wealth that we already have. But we talked about Coach Brew and again, the analysts that we've added recently, but out of left field, man, you didn't think it could get much bigger than Coach Brew, but again, out of left field, Mike Zimmer. Mike Zimmer. I'm going to stop right there. Let's pretend that our audience doesn't know who Mike Zimmer is. Who wants to take it from there?
Man, look, I'll jump first, man. This is it's a very, let me backtrack. we actually got a special assistant to the head coach, which was earthquake shattering as a hire. And we actually took that to a whole nother plateau by hiring Mike Zimmer.
How do you
understand? Understand, man. We're talking about a coach, man, with NFL experience. Like, not like I've been out of the game for a few years. We're talking like literally just a head coach of the Minnesota Vikings just last season, season before last. I'm sorry, and has great history with Coach Prime, but also this guy has been coaching for 40 years. Multiple stops with the number one ranked defense in the league. Even right now, he has a winning record. And also, being that he's 66 years old, man, I think there's a lot of context that needs to be used with him actually coming to Jackson State that he can springboard back to the NFL, believe it or not, because, there's this agenda right now with this youth movement of younger head coaches to older head coaches. And it's specifically on the defensive side, because all the older coaches, per se, outside of Bill Belichick, they're all on the offensive side. And he's a defensive coordinator. So, again, let me go to college, get well-versed with younger people. But here's where he can come into play for Jackson State, because, again, I know what the NFL is looking for. I can help with game planning. Because being that he's an analyst, he won't be able to coach, during the games. He's going to be specific in game planning and instructions with the coaching staff. But also, this is a way to rejuvenate him to get back and segue back to the NFL as well. So, and also, not to be long-winded, he made a comment about, the pay isn't great, but let me throw a little nugget in there for you guys. He's still being paid by the Minnesota Vikings.
He is.
So, that's a great thing as well. But this is a groundbreaking hire, man.
He was about to say a gargantuan. But I mean, he's right. He's right 100%. I mean, this is another expert on the field. This is additional eyes and ears, NFL background, NFL champion. I mean, you can't ask for much more in terms of the knowledge. This guy's probably forgot more knowledge than most of the people in the coaching staffs within the SWAC will even gather.
And so have several of the coaches on our staff. Let me just throw that in.
Absolutely. So,
facts.
I mean, these guys are coming with a different set of eyes that historically we have not had the luxury of having on the sidelines consistently. Now, have we had it in the past? Yes. But again, that key word is consistency. So I'm happy to have him on staff because, he's definitely going to help out the defense tremendously. Give them some set of eyes from the booth, help train these guys up, and more importantly, help give these guys an image and a blueprint of what it's going to take to get to the next level, which is what their goal is.
So, fellas, I love what you said. This is the thing that comes to mind for me. When you think about recruiting, right? Some people feel like our recruiting is kind of simmered down a little bit. Not simmered down, but simmered down a little bit. Think about it like this, man. You got an actual head coach from an NFL team. And we all know Mike Zimmer. I'd be hard pressed trying to remember Coach Zimmer when he was a coordinator. I know He said he was the DB coach when Coach Prime was at Dallas. I mean, listen, in 95, man, I wasn't paying no attention to no coordinators. I know Mike Zimmer as a head coach. So this is what I mean.
Coach. And the younger generation, the players.
Yeah. So the man that's now on campus as an analyst at Jackson State is a man that was in the war room, sending in the selections on the NFL draft Thursday, Friday, the whole entire weekend, right?
That's deep.
So the Vikings draft very well.
Man, I'm telling you, and they have. So when you think about it, to bring Coach Zimmer in, and I love the point you made, the fact that I know he said that the pay isn't very good, but once again, Coach Prime has put Jackson State in the news, has put us at the forefront of just all of college football. there's nobody. I get the big boys doing what they do, but there's nobody doing and making the waves that Coach Prime is doing at Jackson State from a college football standpoint. I mean, this is bigger than anything I've ever seen, because you don't really see anyone of that magnitude come down to this level and take the role that he takes.
You don't see this happening on the Power 5 level.
That's what I'm saying. Let alone an HBCU. So I'm saying, like, when this first happened, my first reaction was, I'm gonna need some time, because I really gotta like let this digest. I don't want to run out and just spout out a bunch of words. So what I tell you, we tried. When Zoe sent me because I was working, when Zoe sent me the picture, I had one word: wow. And I'm still at also. I don't have a whole lot, but all I think about is recruiting, right? When you think about that, I know we had Dennis Thurman and all the. I'm not gonna go through all the coaches' names. Y'all know who's on the staff, but to add Mike Zimmer, a head NFL football coach in Jackson, Mississippi, man, at Jackson State University, and he's physically touching our players. You tell me that recruiting isn't going to be a big thing. So one last thing, and I not to be long with it. When these players, these big time players, go on these visits, guess who we can go let talk to them? Guess who we can go put in front of the families? Imagine Mike Zimmer and Coach Prime and Dennis Thurman and Tim Brewster having a conversation with a family about their young man. Oh my goodness! I'm gonna stop right there. Y'all go ahead and take it.
You can make the argument that this is a full-fledged NFL staff. All right, you can make that. You can make that logical argument. I mean, and you got a good mixture of old school, new age, if you will. I mean, you have a variety of ages for these coaches that can definitely relate to these players. If you need a hard-nosed coach, you got that. You got a former head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, who we're talking about right now, who can definitely come in and have a fresh perspective and say, "Hey, kid, this is what it's going to take to get to the next level. This is what the scouts are going to be looking for. This is what the teams are going to be looking for. This is what they're not going to be looking for. These are the mistakes that you cannot make. These are the things that you can improve upon." That amount of wisdom is invaluable for a kid who wants to make it to the next level. And you're getting it on a consistent basis, on a consistent daily basis at practice. I mean, if you're a recruit right now for 2023 class, you're looking at this saying, wow.
Think about this, years ago or a couple years ago, if you did a pros and cons list in terms of going in HBCU versus not, or the reasons to go or reasons not to go. Until I'm talking about football, that list was very lopsided, right? Why? If you have a Power 5 offer, right? There really weren't many reasons. I don't want to say weren't reasons to go, but looking at it from their standpoint, they probably didn't.
It wasn't popular.
Yeah, they didn't see the reasons. But look at how that list is kind of becoming, because now if you talk about all the reasons to go to a Jackson State, I mean, now it's easier to say, what are the reasons why you wouldn't want to go to Jackson State? Yeah. I mean, TV, okay, we're playing on TV, ESPN, all the games, the family networks, coaching staff, NFL experience, right? The exposure, the NIL deals. I mean, you can just go down the list. We're checking everybody. Like, what box are we not checking right now? Maybe we can't give you $1 million, but I won't leave. I'll leave that one alone.
Well, that's a good point. How many Power 5 schools can say that? And I know you got some big blue blood programs up. Maybe Zoe, you can take this. And Shaq, you too. How many of these big programs can really go and tell a recruit, we're going to be on TV 10 times? We got an 11-game season. Now, actually, it's going to be 11. We just don't know who's going to pick up Tennessee State, Jackson State. But we fully expect that game to be on TV, whether it be a delay or whether it be live. But the point I'm saying is, when you talk about what Shaq just mentioned, when he says this is a legitimate NFL staff, now you're talking, you couple that with, you're going to be playing on national TV. ESPN, now I know Coach Prime isn't satisfied. He won ABC, NBC, and all the other CBS, but nevertheless, 10 games. Think about some of the FBS schools, though, that probably won't even have 10 games on national TV. Because I'm going to tell you, I live in Austin, Texas now. UT being a blue blood program, there was times where, guess what? I couldn't watch UT. Even on the UT Longhorn Network, you had to watch what they call it, a simulcast, whatever it is, I don't know. But you basically had to watch the score, but you couldn't watch the actual game. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that. when it comes to NFL culture and NFL coaching, when we bring a recruit in, we literally check every box because we go from position coach to defensive coordinator to head coach. So when a recruit comes in and talk, again, Mike Zimmer was just a head coach last season. So when he's telling you this is what I'm looking for and this is what we're going to need in the NFL, because again, this guy is very well could be in the NFL next season. This is not far-fetched. He can literally be back in the NFL next season.
Easily.
And if he is, this is coming from a reputable source. He's a known coach. I mean, this guy drafted Justin Jefferson, who's one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. And so also I wanted to mention too, with Dennis Thurman, one thing that Zimmer was known for was running that double A gap blitz. So he can actually help to implement other things to this defense that's already stout and nasty as it is. So the other thing I really believe is nasty, as we already are on the defensive side of the ball, I think we're going to implement even more things to make us more stout and more nasty, because now I really fully see us running an NFL defense. And mind you, one caveat, there's only 2 other returning starters outside of Shedeur at quarterback in this conference. So that actually bodes well for us, knowing that we're bringing in not only an NFL head coach, but a defensive stalwart to go along with Dennis Thurman. So this is a huge big deal. And I really don't think it's getting the traction that it deserves. I mean, it was all on sports television today, but it really should be a lot bigger than what it is.
Well, I think it's because, like I said earlier, why are we still surprised? I think it's Coach Prime, it's Jackson State. It's almost expected for him to give us these things now, right? So I think that's why it's not getting the traction that you would think it would get. But just in a vacuum, Mike Zimmer going to an HBCU to coach, be on the staff, that should be headline news. That should be a big deal.
That would be headline news for any school in its way.
Facts.
On the FCS level,
in the country, in the country, period.
If he went to North Dakota State, people will be talking about like, wow, he went to, as great as that program is. That's not to take anything away from them, but to say, wow, he went down to North Dakota State. Wow.
Yeah.
You know what, fellas? I think one of the things I want to mention with this is something. Remember, Coach Otis Ridley, our very own Coach Otis Ridley, had a chance to go intern in Minnesota with Zimmer. Yes. So it's not just so much as the players that's going to benefit from this. You also got coaches that aspire to elevate to the next level and to matriculate to maybe the NFL. That's what I'm saying. So think about the connections that he has. And think about every coach on his staff now is going to be rubbing elbows with a freaking NFL head football coach that has connections, that could very well be getting another job somewhere soon sometime. Who knows? But even if he doesn't decide to coach in the NFL anymore, this is a phenomenal opportunity for the staff. Because what do we all know? Coaching is about what? Relationships. Yeah, and head coaches and coaches are hires usually come from, like, most coaches are loyal. I'll say it that way. So you build those relationships. A lot of those opportunities come from who you know, and so forth and so on. So it's a multitude of things that we can't really just dissect in a short 10, 20-minute segment about just how big of a move this is. I think about it from the coaching standpoint, the recruiting standpoint, and it's a win-win-win all the way around the board. But I think about that because I know TC had a chance to go up to the Titans, but to have Zimmer now on the staff and Otis was up there with him, this is a home run situation for us, man. And like you said, Coach Prime does it again.
He does again. And let me touch on something that Zoe has mentioned a couple of times, just in terms of Coach Zimmer, possibly, or probably, I would say probably getting back to the NFL. A lot of times when a coach loses, especially a head coach loses the job, they have to go down a level to kind of reestablish themselves, right? And get back out there and get back up to the level that they were already on, whether that's Power 5 going down the level. But you see that often, right? You're taking a lower level job, right? Just to keep your name out there, and then reposition yourself to go back to the level that you were on in the NFL. But do you really think that he had to make this move in order to remain on the NFL radar? No, I don't think so. I think he has the cachet. So. He's established. I think he could have taken a year off. He could have taken a sabbatical. He could have become an analyst, and he's going to always be in the mix, whether it's a head coach job or a defensive coordinator job. He could be back in the NFL any year that he chooses. But he chose to come and do this. He didn't have. What did Shedeur say? These players are here because they want to be here, not because they have to be here. That applies to Coach Zimmer. He wants to be here. He doesn't have to be here.
He could be in Believe somewhere right now.
Yeah.
And let me say this too. Let me say this too, because I'd be remiss if I don't mention this point too. Mike Zimmer is well connected in the same manner that Deion Sanders is. Mm-hmm. So another facet that we can't overlook is he can be an ally for help with resources as well. Because as soon as he got there, Prime took over tour of the campus. They went and looked at the weight room and other things as well. So he can actually be a resource. You know what I'm saying? He can be, an ally or another source to help with resources, with the upcoming facility upgrades that we're possibly doing, or just any other thing that Prime feels that the program need. He could be a resource for that as well.
And he could be an advocate for the need of it. One thing that Coach Prime said is that, his standard of excellence is just so much higher. Like, he opened our eyes up to what could be, right? We think, our vision is here, but he shows us a vision that we would never even thought existed, right? Or we could have. And why? Because he's done it and he's seen it at the highest level. So he knows what it should look like. And he's not going to settle for less. So now you have a Tim Brewster, who's a Power 5 guy who knows what it should look like. You have a Dennis Thurman, who's the NFL guy. And I can go down the list, right? A Coach Prime. But now you have a Coach Z who, again, he's fresh out of the NFL. He knows what it should look like. He's not going to say, well, I'm in an HBCU, so I guess they're not going to be able to have this, have that. Now he's going to say, no, this is what a football player needs to grow and develop. And you better believe he's going to push to try to get it done.
All facts. All facts.
And Corey, one more thing too, because we have to mention this. Coach Zimmer is on the record stating in Coach Prime's office that, hey, we need other entities to invest in Coach Prime, because when I've seen what he's done with the resources as well as with his own resources, I really believe that Coach Prime at Jackson State could compete with the Georgias and Alabamas of the world. I truly believe that. He's on record for saying that. And he's not just talking. And he's on record for saying that. But we said we got our blue and white glasses on. Right. So
we homers when we say it.
You know what I'm saying?
You can call it what you want to call it. You can't deny that. I mean, but then too, you got Coach Zimmer on camera saying how much you can tell he got love for Deion. Then you got that infamous sound clip where Coach Zimmer is actually in the press conference and he's like, it's Deion. He's calling it. And it just goes to show one thing he did say. He said, I'll do anything for Deion. And Coach Zimmer doesn't have to be here. But to be here shows that Coach Prime is big on relationship capital. We just recently had a chance to speak with Cray Lyles, and he had a story to share about the relationship that Deion Sanders has had and how he's been able to get people connected. So Coach Prime coming to this HBCU space has just been an absolute blessing, man, for Jackson State and HBCUs in general. But this will take me a while, though. This is like that Travis Hunter news to get Coach Mike Zimmer, a head NFL football coach, is a defensive analyst at Jackson State University.
Not even a head coach. Like, listen, if he pre-prime, obviously, because we have Deion Sanders as our head coach. But just think, man, 2 years ago, it would have been unbelievable. We hired Mike Zimmer as our head coach. That would have just been, we would have been able to believe it. But again, right now, he's on the staff as an analyst. He's not even the head coach. Think about that.
Hey, man, you got 3 Super Bowl rings on campus right now.
Yep.
That's a good point. That's a great point, man.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure you actually took my thoughts, though. So
go ahead, Zach.
He took my thought. I mean, when I was about to say that we got 3 Super Bowl rings on campus. I mean, the amount of game planning, game day analysis, behind the scenes scouting, player preparation, player analysis, you name it. I mean, you have a wealth of expertise and knowledge to rely on now. Dare I say it, but these guys, Prime has assembled a staff that is undoubtedly going to prepare all of these kids, not only for the next professional level of the NFL, but the professional level in terms of building relationships that go beyond just a playing career. Right. Some of these kids are going to get opportunities to maybe become scouts themselves. Some of these kids are going to get opportunities to go work at the NFL Network, just like we just saw earlier this year. Some of these players may get a chance to go work for ESPN. I mean, the relationship and the behind the scenes networking that comes with this, man, is so invaluable.
Definitely.
Well, even
Definitely.
now we can go ahead and put it to bed, man. We unequivocally have hands down the best coaching staff in all of FCS. It's not even up for
in
debate.
all the country. I ain't saying no FCS. We got the best coaching staff in the country. And you can say I got my blue and white glass on all you want. There's no college coach. There's no college in America. Maybe with the exception of maybe in Alabama, or you can say Miami. But listen, man, there are not a lot of coaching staff that is similar to what we have. Could you imagine this real quick, and I'm done. Listen, I'm gonna run this down real quick, though. Defense coordinator, Dennis Thurman. Defensive line coach, Jeff Weeks. Now you got Mike Hart. I mean, you got Coach Hart as the linebacker coach, but you got Kevin Mathis as your DB coach,
who was coached by Mike Zimmer.
And you got Coach Mike Zimmer. He's a defensive analyst. This is crazy to me, man. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. All these are NFL guys. Just saying.
So, right. So you're saying, best staff in the SWAC, best staff in the FCS, best staff in the country, right? You would have said that possibly prior to Mike Zimmer. Maybe not best in the country, but you would have put our staff up against anybody. So now with Mike Zimmer, you definitely would have said, Zoe, I'm sure, best staff in the country. But days after that, I think maybe one day after that, when we have a staff that you consider the best in the country, we added to it Louie Aguilar. Wow. So I'll let you take it from there. For those who don't know, we have some casual football fans watching Tiger Talk. They're just Jackson State fans, but they don't know Louie Aguilar. But tell them.
Yeah, because I'm showing my age, and just Louie Aguilar was a great kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, and another thing, he has special teams coaching experience in the NFL with guess who? New York Jets. Go figure.
Right.
So it's another NFL coach on the roster.
Back-to-back
he's an NFL special teams coach with the Jets.
Hey, you don't think that has nothing to do with Rex Ryan, do you, bro?
I mean, I'm just.
Go ahead, man.
I mean, and look, he came in last year, worked out with the guys for one day. Now everybody knows, our kicking game wasn't the greatest, but again, he came in one day. Well, now we say, man, one day came in, but we see how the season turned out. So, hey, man, I'm gonna come in this thing and I'm gonna come in here full time and work with you guys, man, because so I'm gonna put my name on it. I'm gonna put my name and my stamp on it. Now, if I can coach for the Jets, I know doggone well I can come down here on Lynch and Dalton Street and get you guys right. And it goes back to what Coach Prime said. I'm taking all of my weaknesses and making them a strength.
Listen, when Coach Prime talks, we better write it down and we better mark his word. This man doesn't just talk just for the hell of it. This man.
Batting 1,000.
Say it, Zoe. You took it from we gotta let Zoe say it. He's what, Zoe?
Batting 1,000.
There you go.
Look out, Shaq. What you got,
it's amazing that people still doubt him right now. Like everything that this cat has said he's gonna do, he's done it.
And some things that he didn't even tell us he was going to do.
Well, I gotta correct you, Shaq.
Keep going.
I gotta correct you, Shaq. They not doubting him. They like Day around here. I hope he ain't gonna get it. He ain't gonna get it. I hope he don't get it. That's what they saying. Prime ain't gonna win. He ain't gonna win. I hope he don't win.
Oh man. But you're right. But every single thing that he has said when he was announced as the head coach in the AAC, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Everything that he said in terms of his vision, his expectation, and what he wanted to do with this program, he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing about that press conference. A couple of us were there. I was so much in awe that he was the coach. I heard what he was saying, but it was going in one and out of the other. Right. I'm saying to myself that, okay, that's great what you're saying. Like, it was just a blur. I was just like, wow, this is Deion Sanders. But later, now that you go, because Zoe talks about, hey, go back and listen to it. So I took Zoe's advice. I went back and just listened to it and just paid attention. Now that I'm over the awe, still not over the awe. It's still, wow, Deion Sanders is our coach. But still, right, just listen to him. And if you do a check box, checking the boxes is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Okay. He said that.
He did it?
He said, wow. Yeah. Is this guy like a prophet? Is he like
would you do it?
Psychic?
He just walked the walk and talked the talk. That's
Man,
it.
look, I'm telling you, I watched it so much I memorized the last bit of it. He said, "Look, we gonna win. I'm gonna take care of that, but we're gonna have fun. Man? We're gonna look good while we win. Sonic, we're gonna have a good time when we win. Sonic Boom, and we're gonna do this thing professionally. And I'll be doggone, he batting 1,000 with it. Well, we broke out the room on everybody last year.
He said we're gonna dominate. He said we're gonna dominate.
Yeah, we got to dominate this year. I think Coach Prime is a walking example, honestly, of when someone says, "What is the soul of man thinketh, then so shall it be." You know what I mean? Yes. You can affect a lot of what happens to you based off how you think. You get what I'm saying? So everything that he said, he's been about it, he's lived about it, and he's set about to make it happen for him. And only thing that's left now is what? Domination, right? So we got to see everything come back. We got to see everything come to fruition and actually come into the reality of domination. But to the point, like I said, we had a recent show talking about how do we improve on the areas that we were already good at to take it to the level of dominance. And he's done everything he could to address those needs. I think the defense is going to be even nastier. We talk about how good this defense could be, but now you add an analyst of NFL head coach. I mean, that's going to take, I think it takes it to the next level. And I love to be a fly on the wall listening to Coach Zimmer and Mathis and Thurman and everyone in the room putting together a defensive game plan as they're breaking down film. And guess what they get to do, Zoe, Shaq, and Corey? They get to scout FAMU and what we got, about 10 days, 10 to 12. We got less than 2 weeks. I don't quote me on the days, but we got less than 2 weeks before our opponent goes out and plays their first game. So what they're going to get a chance to see is what they're going to roll out on the field. So they get a whole extra week to game plan and put together a game plan for FAMU, which is supposed to be a tough game. So I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do together.
No doubt. So when those two, we're talking about Zimmer and Aguilar, when they, we first saw they were on campus, we're thinking, oh, they're just visiting, right? They're visiting for the day. But then we find out that they're official, they're analysts or whatever title you want to give them. They're with the program. That was music to our ears. But every day it seems like we find out of visitors who are there that are just, mind blowing. Like, wow, this person is on campus. Starting with most recently, Mr. Jim Nagy, right there on campus in practice. He is the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. So it's been a struggle for a Jackson State or an HBCU or even an FCS program to get a player invited to the Senior Bowl, right? So not only are we positioning ourselves to have multiple players invited to the Senior Bowl, but the executive director of the Senior Bowl is coming to Jackson, Mississippi, coming to Jackson State in August before the season has even started. Think about that.
Hey, you remember the tweet? Maybe you can help me with the tweet. You remember the tweet last year when we were talking and Jim Nagy made some comments on Twitter in relation to may have been a little while Coach Prime would develop some players that'll be worthy to come to the Senior Bowl. So to see him on campus, I actually retweeted it and I said, this is big. You know who was the first person to like that comment?
Jim Nagy.
It was Nagy. And he actually commented. So I was like, this is big because I'm like, you know what? Take the emotions out of it. Forget all the other stuff. Forget what happened last year. To have this, Corey, you made a great point. It's hard to get an HBCU player invited in general. How many players we got invited last year? Maybe one, maybe. I think it was Jatari Carr, I think was the only one from Southern. They got an invite.
Was Sylvester Morris the last Jackson State player to get invited? I could be wrong. Somebody correct me.
Zoe had to. Zoe or Shaq, whichever one. I'm not sure.
I'm trying to remember if Jamar got invited. I can't remember if Jamar did.
Okay, but carry on. It's been a while either way. Sylvester was in 2000 FYI. So
I'm gonna finish up. Cat and Richard was in and
Richard Anderson. Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So finish the point of regards to why the Senior Bowl is so important. If you go back and look at the players that actually got drafted, the probability of those players getting drafted that go to the Senior Bowl is extremely high. So actually having him on campus to matriculate that into seeing how cool would it be to see a DeJohn Nugget Warren getting an invite or Aubrey Miller getting an invite or Greg Great or John Huggins or Isaiah Bolden. The list goes on and on and on. We could easily see 3 or 4 Jackson State players because we got such dynamic players on offense, defense, as well as special teams. So, I think it was huge, Corey, Zone, Shaq, to have Nagy on the campus, and for him to present Coach Prime with the number 21 Reese's Peanut Butter Reese's Senior Bowl jersey. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a really good look. And that also helps with recruiting because the players are going to see that as well. Go ahead.
But also that goes with that, man. You look at everything that's happened just since, I'll say, since the beginning of the season. Well, the beginning of this year. There is nothing FCS that you see with Jackson State. I would even go on record to say that we have been the most prominent college football program or brand-wise in the country, FCS or FBS. You've heard Jackson State more than you've heard Notre Dame, more than you heard Alabama. Our name is out there in every facet, from the team to head coaching hire to analysts being hired to any and everything that you could think of. Jackson State name has been out there. And that goes back to what I always say, that there's nothing FCS about this program.
Let's put that into perspective, because I'll be honest, that sounds like a blue and white glasses statement. So I'm going to be let's go down that path, right? Let's back that up, right? And obviously we don't have the facts, so we still can't back it up, but we can just kind of give you some real substance and some opinions to that, because that's a bold statement, because we're talking about Alabama and teams like that. But so we all have Bleacher Report on our phone. We get the alerts, ESPN, and all these apps, right? And I don't think you subscribe to Jackson State notifications on Bleacher Report, right? I think you subscribe to college football notifications on Bleacher Report. Is that fair to say, right? Just
that's the way it goes.
So how often? I wish we could have been tracking this like over the past 2 years. Every college football notification that we've got on Bleacher Report, ESPN, and so on. Like how many times it was about Jackson State? Okay, Coach Prime was hired. They signed Dejan Warren at that time. That was a breaking news on the ESPN ticker. Travis Hunter, Sports Illustrated, Mike Zimmer, and I know I'm forgetting Coach Prime donates his half his salary. Coleman. I mean, Kevin Coleman. Like, how many times have you gotten an alert on your phone for Jackson State? I'd be interested to know how many times those other schools have had, or people have had. We've got notifications for some of those other schools. I'm not going to say we've gotten the most, but I guarantee you it ranks right up there, and that's to those points.
There isn't an FCS in the country that's gotten even close to what we've gotten. But go ahead, Zoe. I'll yield to you.
I'll take it a step further. When you factor in everything that's happened, and I mean in totality, no other college program has more impressions than what Jackson State has. When you factor in everything, no one has. Not a single school has more impressions.
Now, when you say impressions, though, what do you mean by that? Because I know there's been some months where if you go to this, so from a social media standpoint, we took a dip over the summer because we just weren't posting as much.
Yeah,
but
when you mention the dip, that's just basically the post and everything. But when you mention impressions, it's basically saying, let me use Twitter for an example. I can have one tweet, and just that one tweet can be not just retweeted or liked. It's everything that's all encompassing, even if it's going and being shared through other services and other platforms, just within the algorithms. Even when I go through a search, for an example, I can use just Mike Zimmer alone, because guess what? On today, it was on Undisputed. It was on Pro Football Focus. It was on First Take. It was on Bleacher Report. It was on Sports Illustrated. Now you see what I'm saying? Once we do anything, it trends. And the last big thing that happened in college football was the transfer of USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, right? Well, outside of that, nothing else has been dominating impressions. But you know who has? Jackson State.
And again, I'm not trying to compare us. I'm not trying to compare us to Alabama. Please don't take this the wrong way when I put Jackson State in the same sentence as Alabama. But outside of Nick Saban's comments about Jimbo Fisher and Coach Prime, when was the last time, or how often is Alabama getting that? You're getting that alert about Alabama football? And again, not to take anything from them, they're the favorite to win the championship. Georgia recruiting. They've landed some players. They've landed some players. So yeah, you're right. But I mean, consist outside of the recruiting, which is their thing. I mean, everything is about recruiting, and that's why they are Alabama. But outside of that, you just don't hear many stories. And again, not taking away that's not to take anything away from them. That's to just talk about how we're, and I don't say we're at a disadvantage from a recruiting standpoint, but without pulling in the recruits that Alabama is pulling in, we're still able to dominate the headline. So that says a lot about the program.
Facts.
Yeah, I agree. And eventually, Jackson State dominating the airwaves and the media airwaves like that is going to pay huge dividends later on down the road with more recruits.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a social media generation, right? I mean, everybody's on social media. Everybody,
except the big Aristotle, but yeah.
But I am. but at the end of the day,
burner account.
It's about visibility. You said what you say, sniper account,
burner account. I'm just joking.
Eggshell.
It's a real. No, he has a real account. It just doesn't say. Go ahead. Anyway, go ahead.
But it's. I mean, this visibility is. I mean, the only word that I can say is earth shattering, because historically we haven't had this luxury, and now that we have it, I mean, can you imagine what this is going to look like in the next 2 years?
Absolutely.
With some of these same trends taking place. You know, my only thought process now is who's going to join the coaching staff next? Like, what big move is coming down the pipeline? And because we're in it right now, for us it seems big because we're fanatics. We're diehard Jacksonians, all right? So we understand this, but for the masses, them being in it, they may not understand the magnitude of this moment until a few years pass, when they can reflect on it and look through their rearview lens and say, wow, Jackson State really did it.
They really did.
And look, and speaking on visibility, the irony, you know, we signed Travis Hunter and he'll never be seen on TV. But he'll be seen on every game.
Those were the Florida State, the hurt Florida State fans. So we'll give them a pass. We understand how heartbroken they were.
Let me throw one more thing in there before we get off of this. I said something when we put it in our chat today. I was like, monumental, but sad commentary. Because this is what I didn't like about the commentary. It seems that the narrative is always Coach Prime is doing such a great job at Jackson State that someone's going to come along and give him a better opportunity to go to a bigger institution.
Yep.
And I don't all the time. That it bothers me. It grinds my gears when I hear that, because I'm like, Coach Prime literally was saying that he was trying to level the playing field. And I just, you know, we don't know what the future holds, but that's just the one thing that always kind of get me when we're, you know, when we're hearing the others.
Well, let me put a bow on that. Go ahead. I'll put a bow on
that. I was about to say, I call them goalpost movers, because we've been hearing this since the inception where Coach Prime made it. First thing they said is, he isn't qualified to be a head coach. How is he going to perform? Spring season comes, he has an okay season, but he tells everybody, wait until the fall. All right. First goalpost that moved, he dominated the SWAC. I mean, dominated the SWAC. First full season, not counting the spring season. All right. And then the next goalpost that moved, you're not going to be able to get the top recruits. You won't ever get a 5-star recruit. Oh, here comes Travis Hunter. Gets a 5-star recruit. Goalpost moves again. And then the next thing is, you got old heads on your staff. You got a staff that probably maybe can't recruit or maybe can't relate to some of these players. He brings in Brewster, brings in Zimmer. I mean, so I'm like, at some point, you got to stop moving the goalposts, folks. You got to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll say,
I mean, if all you can get out, if you can't figure, if somehow you can extract some type of, you know, oppositional position from this, man, it's just an intentional thing. So monumental stuff. Go ahead, Corey. I mean, cut you off. Go ahead.
No. What I wanted to say is, for those who are talking about Coach Prime, first of all, we don't know what the future holds. And I'm going to go here. We always see, well, you three are notorious for going here, but these are Coach Prime's words. And as Zoe said, he's batting 1,000. When he was announced September 21st, along with all the other things that he said he was going to do, or he talked about it have come to fruition. He said, and I quote, "God sent me here. If God sent this man to Jackson State, I'll just leave it at that. If God sent him to Jackson State, if that's what God wants him to be, and he's being obedient, and everything that we know of Coach Prime, he's a God-fearing man. if God wants him here and this is where God placed him, then all those other things don't matter. The money, and he said, I don't need the money, right? Because trust me, if he first of all, he just gave away half of his salary. So that I want to speak for Coach Prime, but that kind of tells you what he feels about his salary. If you're willing to give half of it away, I mean, I can't give half of my salary away because I need it. Right? So he told you what he thinks of his salary, but here you can have it. So again, if God, there's something greater at play here. This is not the everyday coach that's coming to an FCS school in order to get on the track to move up to a bigger school. He's not Prime's not your everyday guy. He's a unicorn. So
well, I mean, you just said it. So we're spiritual folks, all of us.
No,
I'm just gonna call us.
What chapter? What chapter?
Hold up. I'm gonna say my favorite verse is 1 John 3:18, and it says, "Little children, love one another, not through words and tongues, but through deeds and truth." Has he not exhibited that?
There you go, Pastor Shaq, the big Aristotle.
Hey, Joe, you gotta tell us what Ralph Phillips said now, because he done gave you an assist, bro. He done gave you an assist. Come on with it, guys.
Nah, man. We can't give a Ralph Phillips-ism right now.
But no, I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, I know some people, spiritual belief beside. I mean, some people may have it, some people may not, and there's no knock. But at the same time, if we're looking at this from the outside looking in, and we see these moves that are being made, would the average person have predicted this? Would any of us have predicted we're gonna get a Super Bowl winning former head coach to be an analyst on the team? We're going to get a staff full of NFL former players and expertise. And we're going to run through the SWAC, the first full season of SWAC of Prime's tenure. And we're going to get the #1 high school recruit in the nation, followed by arguably one of the top slot receivers in high school, in Kevin. So I mean, I'm asking. I mean, who would have predicted this?
Well,
nobody.
Corey kind of did. I had to always follow back suit to Corey because Corey gave the perfect analogy. You know, when this thing first took off, Corey was like, "What's better than winning? What's better than winning $1 million?" Because hiring Deion Sanders was better than winning the lottery.
It's better than lottery.
Corey said it. Corey said it from the onset, and it stuck with me. It's better than winning the lottery. And it has been. It's the gift that keep on giving. And as Prime stated, you know, the best is yet to come. You know, for example, you guys, if you go back to Jackson now, the CFM is roped off. The old unclaimed freight building is completely torn down. And at the end of the season, you know, they're going to go ahead and start on the pavilion. You know, so there's a lot coming down to work. We haven't scratched the surface. And again, we're talking about going now to, as Coach Prime wants to do, and let's dominate this upcoming season. You know, let's fast forward. It's December of next year. We're 13-0. We just won the Celebration Bowl. We got a winning streak against every opponent within our conference. You're on an 18-game winning streak. You know, with a Coach Prime having 2 full seasons, and now you're talking about upgrade even more facilities. So let's just hypothetically say, you know, we go into the recruiting class in December. We sign a top 30 recruiting class, which, by the way, is breaking our own previous record. And it's just like, what else could happen? We can't even fathom what's going to happen. We can't even fully understand or grasp what's coming down the pipe. And that's the hard thing for everybody to deal with because it's reality. But see, I'm not lost in that space. I soak this thing in every day. I don't have to wait till Prime gone 3 years down the line to appreciate it. Oh, I love it every day. Like I said, I woke up a champion today. I woke up a champion. I'm about to go to sleep in a few minutes as a champion, sleeping good. And we're going to repeat this year, and I'm going to go sleep like a champion again. So I don't need Prime to leave to soak in all this greatness that we got going on. Because, man, that's the hard thing people have. That's the thing that people are having a hard time with. It's the reality of everything that Jack State has going on. They can't believe, like, oh, wow, they signed not just a 5-star, the highest rated recruit ever on the record. It's right there, man, on Lynn Street in Dalton. We're one of 6 schools in the whole entire country that got 2 top 100 players. Jackson State did that. It's not Ken, Shaq, and Corey and Zoe just talking crazy. That's tangible. It happened. It's real. We've had multiple top 100 players having us in our top 5. And yeah, they committed some other places, but they ain't signed nowhere. We still gonna get a ring put on some of them. This is real.
They still got to come to homecoming until they come. Because Travis Hunter was Florida State, but again, what Prime say?
And let me add this too. For all the ones that committed to other places, that J has still went on the table.
No doubt. One thing you said, Zoe. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I want to say one last thing to make sure, because I don't want this to get lost. For all of our fans, alumni, supporters, those that support Jackson State, Coach Prime has been very, and I always struggle with this word, philanthropic, philanthropical, charitable. We got to do our part. As we see him level up, we got to make sure that we level up too. That's why we level up on Tiger Talk. That's why you get to see the big Aristotle tonight. So my point is, we don't want to take this for granted and think that, okay, he's just going to keep, and we know he's going to do what he do. But I think Coach Prime also wants to see us match his energy. He wants us to dominate in what we do, dominating giving, dominating showing up to the game, dominating being supportive, dominate when any one of these guys interviewing with one of the players or coaches, dominate by making sure you're tuning in and supporting. And that's all I really got, man. Like I said, this we got to do our part too. And that's what we're trying to do with Tiger Talk. Go ahead, Corey. I just want to throw that in there.
No, good stuff, man. Thank you for adding that. I just wanted to point out something that Zoe said that's resounding, man. He said the best is yet to come. I mean, I just don't see how it can get. I believe what you're saying, but it's hard to even fathom how it could get better. It's the best.
Hey, can we get Sean Payton? Maybe if Sean Payton comes in.
Sean Payton, he's still. But listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Payton shows up on campus just for practice or something, because again, they're showing up these names every single day.
Hey Ken, while you trying to be funny, guess what? He was a Dallas Cowboy while Prime and
hey, that's all I'm saying.
What Prime or whatever.
Well, one other thing, fellas, before we get out of here, we're talking about all these visitors. Let's not, definitely let's shine some light on the fact that these NFL scouts are showing up in droves at Jackson State's practices. Again, we haven't even kicked the season off. We're talking about August.
Daily.
One day there was 7 teams, so I can't even remember which teams it was that on campus that day. But we're talking about, I'm going to shout out my Niners, Cowboys, Ravens, Jaguars. I mean, every day NFL scouts on campus. The Bears came.
The Chiefs, the Eagles,
the Chiefs.
the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I said, the Kansas City Chiefs. It's been a lot of them. The Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are there. Detroit Lions. Shout out to James.
Well, they're coming back, right? But this is my question, and this is what I want to end it on. I talked earlier about the reasons to go to an HBCU to play football a couple years ago. Now, if you look at that list, it's more balanced, right? You can find as many reasons to go as you can find reasons not to go. But honestly, like, what's left? Like, what are the reasons not to go? Because the exposure, we'll go through the list and tell me what I'm missing. The exposure is there. The NFL, and obviously we're talking about specifically Jackson State, but we understand that a rising tide lifts all boats, and the SWAC as a whole is elevated because of what we're doing. Yes, I said it because of what Jackson State is doing.
It's true.
Right? You have to give credit. So the exposure is there. We have to give Coach Prime his props. Well, we've been on TV before. Yeah, you have. Alabama State and I'm
not every game.
For an example, I'm just using it for an example, but the number of games that you are on TV now, especially ESPN, years ago pales in comparison to what it is now, thanks to Coach Prime. So exposure, we're getting players drafted, so you see it can be done. Scouts are on campus. The level of the pedigree of the coaching staff. What else am I? The facilities, right? We have the facilities. At Jackson State.
Social media engagement has increased for across the landscape.
Okay, so
don't forget, we're in play with NIL with everybody.
NIL, that's what I said earlier. So I think it'd be easier now to list the reasons why you wouldn't want to go to an HBCU. A couple of years ago, it'd be easier to list all. It'd be the opposite, right? But now it'd be you come up with fewer reasons why you wouldn't want to go. So what are the reasons now? Let's just be honest. Like, if I'm looking at a Power 5 and I'm looking at Jackson State, give me the reason why you wouldn't want to go, other than this money under the table.
Money over the table.
Well, yeah,
it's still money over and under the table.
It's over and under. I know. I just you got
well, we do know, and I will say this on Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club. Forgive me, coaches, and not that a coach told me this, but if the coach have a problem with this, I'm sorry, but Jackson State has lost some players due to the money being handed out. Some players who wanted to go, their parents wanted them to go, their girlfriends wanted them to go, their aunts. And I can say this because these are not only what I'm hearing and being told by people who know, but people who I know personally who want to be at Jackson State, but that envelope showed up. So
that Rick Ross calls it, that brown paper bag money.
Absolutely. Right. But other than that, what, like, I'm serious. What are the reasons to go to a Power 5 over an HBCU now? Especially Jackson State. We're talking about
reasons
Jackson.
are dropping, football. They're minimized
nutrition, now. That used to be an issue.
No,
well, I think
we have that.
I think that the reason that you won't see it is that we still got a little bit more work to do in our community. I still feel like a major Zoe always says, I'm gonna say it because I don't want to throw that off on him. You know, Black people devalue Black things, and that's just been a thing that has transpired in our community. Hopefully, one day we see ourselves get to a point where, from a socioeconomic status standpoint, we start to value culture a little bit more than what we have been over the past. Hopefully, this movement with Coach Prime gets a little bit of more of that. It's kind of difficult to tell a family or someone to not take money that they can make. But I think this is what I'll say. I think the more we see it happen, the more you'll see more Travis Hunters and Kevin Coleman start to emerge. It's a long, we covered this on some previous shows, and myself, Zoe and Shaq, but it's not gonna happen overnight. You can't undo how many years? 30, 4 decades, 3 decades
40
of 4 decades of what's been put in place. You can't undo that in 2 years, 2 seasons. It's going to take a lot more, but I think it starts at home, Corey, Joe, and Shaq, where we got to continue to do more of this. We got to continue to tell our story. We got to continue to shine a light on the good stuff. Because, again, the culture's not for sale, but you're running out of excuses. I'll just say it that way. You're running out of excuses.
And let me add something to what he just said, because he said a mouthful, and I agree 100%, Ken. And let me just add, don't be afraid to operate in excellence. All right? Just because in your environment you may not see people doing things that are excellent does not mean that your code of conduct cannot mirror what excellent behavior or Black excellence is for us. Be the model for your community. Be the model for your school. Be the model for your team, because eventually people, I mean, if there's anything that we know about Black culture, it's trends. We're trendsetters. And so when you create the trend of operating in Black excellence, these little kids gonna want to do that too. So be that image so that they can want to mirror that and duplicate that in their lives.
Well, to echo Ken, and also to echo Ken, and to also quote our lovely head women's basketball coach, we just have one major wall to knock down, and that is the perception. Because that's the biggest crux that we have, is just the perception of the belittling of the Black product. Thanks. And that's the main thing. And once we do that and we knock down that wall of the perception of being lesser than, and I'm not necessarily worried about the masses outside of Black America, to be honest with you, because there are tons of us who love it, but even there's a great number of those of us who love it but still devalue it when in comparison to something else. And so when we get to that point where we aren't devaluing it and we're cherishing it and we're willing to put it on a pedestal in comparison to something else, when that starts to change, because believe it or not, fellas, there's a chink in that armor right now, because we're a wave and we are that wave. We started that wave, and now these other HBCUs, because as we say, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're that tide. Those boats are coming. FAM has gotten out there. Southern has gotten out there. Graham has gotten out there. Tennessee State has gotten out there. But we're leading the charge with Coach Prime up front. And there's a chink in that armor. And so now as that wave starts to rise, and we're talking about over time, we can actually change that thing, because there's still tangible things that can happen. We can go play a ranked FBS school and beat them. That's going to break things. Then let someone in the other conference does it as well. That's going to break things. We're just studying knocking, as Coach Reed would say, That's how we're studying knocking down that wall, knocking down that perception. Because once you kill that perception, then there is nothing else to answer your question, Corey. There is nothing else that can stand in our way. Because we have the culture, they can't get it. They can't duplicate it. They can play neck till they can't blow no more. It ain't the same. We can give you the recipe, you can't duplicate it.
Like that.
I mean, you don't have the ramp, you don't have the D9. Look, you don't have the ramp, you ain't got the D9, you don't have the same swag with the cheerleaders. I mean, we don't have no bland bands. Our fans are different, our swag is different. We are the culture. You can't duplicate it. And it is what it is, man.
Hold on, let me hit the organ.
Hey Corey, I normally jump in, but that was a mic drop. I ain't saying nothing.
We got.
He go by the name. He got Zoe Phillips 1400, but that's Zoe DeLorean right there.
Zoe DeLorean, aka Zoe Historian. Fellas, been another banger. Again, pleasure, an honor to be on the show with DeLorean Historian, the big Aristotle, and Ken. He's to the point where he doesn't even need a nickname. He's just Ken now. You know you bad when you got that.
Hey, I yielded my Superman back to Mr. Robert Kent. Respect to the GOAT, one of the GOATs, one of the quarterback GOATs from Jackson State. I'm gonna be Robert Superman Kent. Hey man, I'll just be Ken Clark, man.
He's Ken Clark. Fellas, pleasure. We'll catch you next time.
Indeed. I love.
Go Tigers.
And that'll do it for episode 257 of Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club. Thank you to all of our listeners. And again, be sure to download and subscribe to the podcast. Apple Podcasts and Spotify video users, rate and review the show. And everyone, go follow Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club on Facebook and Tiger Talk 1400 on Instagram and Twitter. We're looking to do some big things with this platform to aid the athletics department, and it all starts with you. Downloading, subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show. And tell every Tiger that you know. We're on all podcast outlets: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Video, Castbox, YouTube, and so on. And we'll be posting each episode on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. As always, thanks for your support. Go Tigers. Hashtag I Believe. Hashtag Pack the Vet. Hashtag the I Love.